Hi, I'm Ivy.
And I'm Katie.
And this is Bad Boss Detox.
Welcome to Bad Boss Detox, a podcast about surviving toxic workplaces, one horror story at a time. In this first episode, we're spilling a little bit of our own workplace war stories and breaking down what this podcast is going to be all about. So, let's get into it.
Hey, Katie, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Did you do anything fun this week?
I did a lot of fun stuff this week. So I'm working on, I finished up one audiobook, so I was doing editing and mastering for that. And yesterday and today I had directed sessions with my director for the From Blood and Ash series, which is so fun. I get to play a princess / vampire, maybe. It's pretty
Okay,
intense.
that's my dream. I
Yeah,
want to
I
be
know.
a princess / vampire.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, I get to swing a sword in my closet, make all those sounds, and I get to do the dialogue and I get to do the narration. It's pretty tight.
Awesome.
Fun stuff.
Awesome.
How about you? What did you do this week?
Well, I don't even remember the rest of this week, but today's a snow day.
Heck yes.
And I have been in my sweats, and my husband went to work, so it was a snow day just for me. I loved it.
Oh, that's the best.
Glorious.
I love it. Sometimes it's just so nice to be alone in the house.
I still think back
Just
to
quiet.
8th grade snow days and how much fun snow days are.
Yes. I'm excited. I love to record in the snow. When I was a teacher, obviously a snow day was like, yes, I don't have to work. But now I'm like, ooh, when I record, there's not going to be construction down the street.
No, and it's so much cozier.
Yeah, it's cozy and it's quiet and it's great. Although I did have like 100 birds on my patio this morning because they didn't have anything to eat. So I put bird seed out, just threw it out on the patio. And now I have like birds chirping in some of my audio, unfortunately. But yeah.
Birds chirping is never a bad thing.
Yeah, I feel like Snow White. They just appear to me.
Yep. Yeah. You look a little bit like Snow White, so there you go.
Aw, thanks. I'll take it. So why don't you just tell me a little bit about who you are and why you wanted to start a podcast?
Well, my name is Ivy, and I have just come off of a 25-year stint as a personal assistant to a nobody who thought she was royalty. And freedom is fabulous, and also I have a lot of funny and not so funny stories to tell about my time with her. And sometimes I feel a little guilty about it because she is a human being with feelings, but also so am I, and she really tore mine up a lot. So
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about it without outing her, and I hope that people enjoy it. I hope they find humor in it, and most importantly, I hope they find some sort of help, that there's got to be somebody out there, that you're not alone. We've all had shitty bosses, and if we're lucky, we've left them forever.
Yes.
I thought it was going to be really tough. I thought it was going to be, oh my God, how am I going to survive? But here I am a month later, and I have never been happier. It's been like the best month of my life. So I'm so glad to be done with her and have her out of my life. And also so glad to have another boss who is so accommodating and so kind and so wonderful and so generous that I am able to do this.
Hell yes. So there is life after toxic work.
Yeah,
We both
and
survived it.
also the money will come.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, you do what you got to do, but it's so much better to not feel that anxiety of seeing her name either on an email or on my phone. Like, she's left me alone. I thought she'd be harassing me. She's not. So
Yeah.
I'm like completely free, like freedom. Like, it's amazing.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. What about you? What's your story?
Yeah. My name's Katie, and I'm a voice actor, and I was a public school teacher for 15 years, teaching art and theater. This was in a deeply red state where the situation wasn't so much toxic because of my bosses. Like, I don't really blame my principals for any of the stuff that went down. It was more like the parents were in charge, and the parents just got their way every time, because the parents had the money to sue, and everybody was terrified of being sued. Um, so the stuff that I put up with that was because I loved the kids and I wanted to do right by the kids. I was loyal to my students, and I there were some problem students. None of them were perfect, but I give them a lot more grace than a grown ass adult. Um, and
100%.
so, yeah, so I stuck it out because of the kids. I wanted to give them the best of myself. And when I realized that I couldn't be the best of myself because I was under toxic stress all the time, um, I started to think about other ways to get an income that would be less stressful for me. I ended up turning to what was originally my side hustle, which was voiceover, and bravely quit my job in 2023 and went full time. And now I have replaced my teacher income in just under a year.
That's so rad. Like,
It
you're
is
my
pretty rad.
hero.
I I recognize I had a lot of privilege going into that situations, and I'll break some of that down, but most of it was just bossing up and deciding I'm mad as hell and I'm not taking it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, well, sometimes that's
what
what
I
it
did.
takes. It just
You
takes.
have to reach a breaking point.
Yeah, you got to reach a breaking point when somebody screams at you enough times or tells you enough times how stupid you are without saying how stupid you are.
Mm-hmm.
You got to just walk away.
I being a teacher for 15 years means that I have the audacity to believe that I can just do anything because I had to all the time. Yeah, basically, Ivy and I met at a voice actor professional networking workshop and just connected and got to be friends and decided that we would like to help people out in whatever way that we can.
So basically, originally, when I came up with, I want to do a podcast about bad bosses, it was because everyone under the sun that I know is so sick of hearing me talk about her that I thought if I could just tell my stories to people who haven't heard them or don't know, and then help people who maybe are in situations who don't realize that their boss is the reason that they come home and yell at their husband or their wife, or that they don't realize that they're being mistreated because they have been made to feel almost worthless. I just want people to understand that your boss is just your boss. And that's a very small part of your life and not who you are. And it's important that you be respected and taken care of, even if it means you have to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be able to talk about it because I feel like I need to talk about it, feel like I need to get it off my chest. But a lot of people have been hearing about it for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it makes it like boring to them. But my stories are good. And I think people will take from them ideas of how they can take care of themselves.
Yeah. I think that's extremely important. And sometimes I am guilty too of like venting too much to my partner about work. And one of the reasons he was willing to kind of support my shift out of that career was because he was so tired of me being stressed all the time and unhappy.
Yeah.
And, I felt like I was not taking it out on him, but certainly using him as a sounding board and having to vent to him. And it would just wasn't good. It wasn't healthy. Like, we needed to move on from that. I think it's really important when you have been through any kind of a traumatic situation or an abusive situation, which sometimes it's kind of lighthearted, but this stuff can escalate to abuse.
Oh, yeah. I was definitely in an abusive relationship with my boss.
Yes. Any type of that situation, in order to fully heal from it, you have to be able to release it and let it go.
Mm-hmm.
So that you're not holding on to that. The way you know you're still holding on to it is if you keep thinking about it. It still makes you mad. You still have dreams about it. Mm-hmm. If you're still having dreams about it, you haven't fully let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And one way you can fully let it go is by sharing your story, telling somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
laughing about it, and then ultimately trying to find what you learned and what you were grateful for about that experience. And that comes like way later, you know.
Well, also, we need to find people who can relate to us because sometimes we feel so alone, like nobody else. Is there anybody else in the world who has experienced what I've experienced? I don't know. Have you returned a dildo for your boss? Have you been to
Fortunately
therapy?
not.
Have you been to therapy with your boss? Like,
I've been
have.
to therapy about my boss.
Right? Well, I've been to therapy with my boss.
That's a whole other level.
It's like couples counseling with your boss.
Yeah. See, toxic relationships can occur in personal relationships and in work relationships and friendships.
Absolutely.
It's all connected. It's all connected.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody out there that's listening is in a situation where they are like taking abuse at work for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm. Coworkers too. Doesn't have to be the boss.
And from your coworkers, from your boss, from your clients, the people you work for. Like in my case, a lot of it was the parents. Some of it was my coworkers, but for the most part, it was the parents screaming at me, sending me nasty emails, etc., accusing me of things, crazy stuff.
Well, they are your boss because they pay their taxes.
They pay my salary. So yeah, they paid my salary as a public teacher. So that to a lot of folks gave them the right to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that ultimately I would like to see this become a place that's a safe place for people to vent and, you know, let us laugh with you about it. Let's cry together, laugh together, get it out of our system however we need to, and then give you guys some steps to move forward, if that's possible, as well as ways to like just survive while you're trying to figure out what to do next.
Yes.
Because that's the hard part. I think most people stay in a toxic job because they need the money. Like, obviously, you have to pay your rent. You have to feed your kids. And if you don't have another way to get an income, you feel like you have to just take this abuse. You don't. But it can take a minute to figure out.
You know, they say it takes 7 times to leave your abusive husband or spouse, because it's not always a husband. But it took a lot of tries for me to leave my abusive boss. And a lot of it was because I didn't know if I was going to be able to do anything else. Like,
yeah,
I don't have that much of an education. I don't have, skills beyond what I've taught myself to do that job. So a lot of people, I think, stay where they are because they don't think they can go anywhere else. They don't think they're good enough for anything else.
And I think, not thinking you're good enough is a result of taking that abuse and that belittlement from your boss. It's meant to keep you in a state of fear.
Yes.
So that you are scared to leave because God only knows where your next paycheck is going to come from, right?
In my last few months with her, I can't tell you how many times we got on the phone where she was crying and telling me how it just seems like you would know. It just seems like you would be able to figure that out. It just seems like basically calling me stupid without calling me stupid.
It seems like you would know
what? Like there was one about her, she wanted to watch part of the debate. She wanted to watch the election debate, and she doesn't have a TV. She wanted to watch it on Comcast. The last time she wanted to do that was like 6 years ago. So the email that I sent her 6 years ago telling her how to watch it on her computer may or may not have been what was the way to do it. And I was trying to tell her it may have changed. We'll have to try it. Tears. Tears. She's sobbing because I've ruined her night because she can't watch the debate.
Well,
those kind of things make you.
I would argue that my life was ruined because I did watch the debate.
I think I said something like that to her. I think I did. They call it gaslighting, right? Where somebody, maybe this isn't gaslighting, where somebody is not calling you stupid, but everything they're saying to you is implying that you are stupid.
I don't know if I'd call that gaslighting, but it's definitely like passive aggressive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And belittling and disrespectful and shitty.
It shouldn't be this hard. It just shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't. Why does everything have to be this hard? Well, because I'm
Yeah.
stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so glad you've escaped.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to tell you this story, Katie.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Tell me.
I worked at a store
Mhm.
in the mall, and the manager didn't come to work one morning, and the owner called me on my day off and said, "Can you get there and open the store?" Which was like in 10 minutes. So I grabbed some
You
food.
can't even park in 10 minutes.
So I grabbed some food, got to the store and opened the store and turned on all the lights and walked back into the break room and took a bite of whatever I was eating. And she walked in the store and wrote me up for eating.
Bitch.
Yes.
Like, I'm sorry for being a human being and needing some calories in my body in order to function.
Yeah. On my day off when I did you
When
a
I wasn't even supposed to be here.
I was doing you a favor.
Oh my God. The entitlement of some people is disgusting. Disgusting. So I want to, if we can, I'm going to read you a story from a listener who wanted to share about a situation with their boss. And I know you haven't heard this story before, so I'm just going to get your reaction as you're hearing it.
Okay.
I was working in a community theater as a volunteer stage manager and scenic artist. At the time, the executive director of the theater was notoriously flaky, self-absorbed, and generally incompetent. He has since been fired, and I am not even sure he works in theater anymore. But during this particular production, he really stepped in it. It was Tech Week, the stress-filled week before the show opens. With a small cast, this musical review had very little help getting everything done. I was tasked with painting and finishing the entire set by myself. The director had decided on a black and white theme to go with the formal wear the actors were dressed in for most of the show. It was supposed to look like piano keys. Sounds simple enough, but with those high contrast colors, we needed every edge to be perfectly clean, or it would be really noticeable to the audience. I had painstakingly taped and painted the whole stage with the white and black paint designated for the show. Flat latex paint. It was a ton of work, and I did my best to get it done by myself. I had just barely completed touch-ups the morning of opening night, but since I'd used latex paint, it would have plenty of time to dry before the curtain went up. When I walked back into the theater after my lunch break, I was hit with a toxic smell, and I knew immediately it was some kind of oil-based paint. I stepped into the auditorium and found Tommy, the executive director himself, painting the floor black, on top of the black paint I had already laid down. He had taken it upon himself to repaint the black floor and platforms with glossy, oil-based paint. "It needs to be shiny! Doesn't it look great?" he yelled, as I stared wide-eyed. "Tommy, the show opens in 6 hours. How long does that paint take to dry?" I don't know, however long paint takes. A couple hours, right?" "Tommy, oil-based paint might be dry to the touch in 6 to 8 hours, but it takes up to 24 hours to fully cure. We have actors walking all over this stage in formal wear. What the fuck are we gonna do?" He started to argue with me, but then he looked at the can, and yeah, I was right. This paint was all over the place. He'd even tracked some of it backstage on his shoes. And it was stinking up the entire building, because, of course, he had also neglected to properly ventilate the space. And we would have actors walking on it in rented costumes in a couple of hours. He then wandered off in a huff, leaving me to solve the problem. I wasn't even being paid for this, mind you. I was a volunteer. I opened all the doors, plugged in some big fans, and tried not to panic. Luckily, another crew person found commercial-sized rolls of saran wrap in the kitchen, and we scrambled to saran wrap the floor before the audience arrived. The actors performed beautifully, but every step they took on the uncured floor made a squishing and squeaking sound and left a slight footprint. After the show, the entire stage had to be power sanded to remove the gunk. I still don't know what made him think it was necessary to get involved in the set work.
Can the audience even breathe?
I would imagine that there were probably many complaints.
So many headaches.
So many headaches.
So many headaches and so many, I don't know what kind of play it was, if there was any children there, but I would have to take my child out of there.
Right? Like, probably people
Gross.
wanted ticket refunds. That had to have been a disaster. Had to have been.
Oh, it had to have been a disaster.
But yeah, like talking about a boss who this was not his job, right?
This is one of those bosses that that tries to do too much. What do they call
Yeah.
them? The everything has to be done by them or it's not done right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like micromanaging.
Micromanaging. Yes,
Yeah.
that's it. Micromanaging.
Yeah.
Time wasting is what they are.
Yeah, and who decided that it had to be glossy paint? Like,
Yeah, like who's going to see the floor? Like, I mean, black is black when you're sitting in an audience and the stage
Yeah.
is black. The gloss doesn't really make that much of a
I
difference.
have no idea.
But it would have been hilarious for them to stick to it and be.
So what's coming down the bend, Ivy?
Well, we've got some listener stories. We've got some of our own stories, some fun stories of bad bosses in history, maybe some games, and some of your stories.
Yeah. That's my favorite part, is getting listeners to share their stories with us and then kind of reacting to them. That's what I'm looking most forward to.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. And
relating to them.
yes, relating to them, seeing what we can find in common, and sort of like sussing out some red flags, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I told you about that post on Facebook where I kind of went, "Oh my God, you actually called your boss toxic."
Mm-hmm.
She posted something like, "I'm 58 and I never thought I'd have to get another job and I'm finally free of my toxic boss." And I had to double take and think, is this me? But I'm not 58.
And if we were fortunate enough to have some guests lined up, what kind of people would we expect to join us on the pod?
I would love to have some people who have experienced things similar to what you and I have experienced. Not that we've experienced the same things, but what you and I have experienced. I'd also like some people who have some maybe education in the therapeutic side of it, like the people who help people through situations with toxic bosses and narcissistic people.
Yeah.
Like we talked about once before, I don't know if it's even a thing. Are there reformed bad bosses? Bad bosses who regret having been bad bosses?
Hard to say.
Well, and will they want to even come on and share their stories?
Yes. Will we have to change their voice like on Unsolved Mysteries? So in terms of guests, we're looking at maybe some therapists and counselors, some authors, journalists. I was planning on reaching out to some of my former teacher friends, counselors, and folks like that. And yeah, anybody that has experience in the corporate world, because you and I aren't really corporate people.
I am the exact opposite of corporate.
Yeah, thank God. Both of us escaped that fate.
I would fail immediately.
I would too. I would say I'm terrified to work in a cubicle, but like, look, this is my vocal booth is basically a cubicle, but
I don't like being told what to do.
I don't either. It sucks. I'm too bratty for that, I guess.
Me too.
Being an only child, I never learned how to share. I don't like someone else being the boss of me. I feel like I'm smart enough to figure out what I'm going to do. And that's about it.
Yes. I like having jobs where only I know what my job is. So that's the best kind of job security.
Yeah.
Nobody else knows what I do.
Yeah. And now, even though I work for clients, I have the freedom to say, like, well, I'm not working for that person anymore. Like, once this job is done, then bye. So I only have to suffer through it once. It's not like, every day this guy comes back with the same problem,
And I can wear whatever I want.
That's also awesome. And I also don't have to get up at 5 a.m.
There was a client at the gym where I work. She was in her 90s when she died. She said she would send me home to change my clothes so much she would just have to fire me.
Because your outfits are inappropriate and...
Yes.
What? Oh, okay. Because you work at a gym, so you're supposed to wear, like...
I mean, my clothes are always tight. I have tattoos, and I wear a lot of skulls.
Heaven forbid. My pearls.
She loved me, though. There was another one whose daughter-in-law told her, "What are you going to do about all of Ivy's tattoos?" when she took me to dinner at the country club, the
What are you
Bellmead
going to
Country
do
Club.
about it?
Yeah, her daughter-in-law called her up and said, "Well, what are you going to do about all of her tattoos?" And Alice said, "Well, I don't care."
They make long sleeve shirts.
She didn't care.
One of the most fun things to me is sharing listener stories, whether that's in written form when we read it out loud, or if it's just something that somebody told to us in conversation that they're comfortable with us sharing. Um, I'm sure you have friends and me too that have stories to share, but they don't necessarily want it to be in their own voice.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's such a scary thing.
And, we're not therapists for sure, but we
Yeah.
definitely will be your listening ear. We definitely
Yeah.
want to hear your stories, and we can definitely give advice based on our own experience.
Yes. Take it with a grain of salt, of course. But we would
Absolutely.
love to create a safe space and be some safe listening ears for you,
Mm-hmm.
Also, very important thing. Your anonymity is super important to us. So even if you accidentally share something that will identify you or the company you worked for or your boss's name or something, we will strategically cover that up with, animal noises or like Ivy's dog barking like we did earlier in her story. So please know that we are aware of the fear that is put into you when you're in a toxic job. We want to protect your information. But if you're under an NDA, maybe don't share anything. just don't. It's probably better to wait till that runs out at least. Listen, this is one reason I'm really glad that you and I found each other for several reasons, but you being a Gen Xer and me being technically a millennial. So I was born in 83. So I'm almost an Xer. I'm of the micro generation in between the two. But so I grew up where it was not that way. And I also saw the transition of now we're going to have trigger warnings and we're going to have this social emotional learning and trying sensitivity and all this stuff. And I've seen my parents who were boomers reacting to that that's bullshit. Don't be such a wimp. You don't need to da-da-da. And me seeing kids no, I've had kids try to commit suicide and have to deal with that. And their needs are to be taken seriously. So
I don't disagree that the needs
Yeah.
are to be taken seriously, but I think that there's a part of that has been from a lot of coddling from the young, from my generation. See, my generation is the generation that absolutely hates all of the coddling, and yet we raised the generation that invented all of my husband had to install a crying room at Whole Foods once where people could go and cry. He liked that.
Was it because of the prices or the price of eggs isn't that high?
Yeah, it was.
Shit.
They turned it into the nursing room when 3 people
Okay.
got pregnant, but it was
Yeah.
the
Oh, that's
crying
great.
room.
That's
It was the
good.
crying room there for a minute.
I needed a crying room at my job. It was just my classroom.
Yeah.
There was definitely the last few weeks before I actually left that job, there was a time that I burst into tears in front of my class.
Oh.
And it was so awkward. But I just
Oh.
I was
Yeah.
beyond my breaking point.
Yeah.
And something set me over the edge and I just burst into tears and went into the hallway and had a conversation with the teacher that it was about. And I yelled at her, and then later I went back to her and I was like, "Girl, I'm so sorry. I freaked out." And she was cool about it. She was like, "I get it. I'm that stressed too. We're all there, you know." And thank God for a lot of my coworkers being so chill and understanding, because we were all in that shit together, at least. But it wasn't really until I was a teacher that I had actual counselors talking to me on the regular basis saying like, how to set boundaries with people and how to stick up for yourself and stuff like that.
I don't remember guidance counselors when I was in school doing anything other than making sure you were all in the right class or something. Like I don't remember. I know there was like a plaque on the door that said guidance counselor, but I don't know what they did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My mom made me go to counseling in high school, and the counselor's name was Ken Cope. Isn't that rad?
He was given that name by the universe.
She made me go to counseling because my boyfriend broke up with me, and she insisted I was depressed, and I was just sad.
Yeah. Well,
So she sent me to Ken Cope. When I was young, it was more of like a walk it off, rub some dirt on it,
Yeah.
I told my kids when they were young, our theme was if you hurt yourself doing something stupid, you have to carry your own ass to the hospital. Like there was no... But at the same time, I did coddle my kids. I still coddle my kids, and they're grown adults. And I wish I hadn't as much as I did.
Yeah.
Like that's what I was saying about, my generation being the latchkey kids, which I never was. But that's what my generation is. The latchkey kids get out of the house in the morning, come back when the street lights turn on, don't bother us in between.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave my kids a little bit of that, but also... not like I was the helicopter mom until just a couple years ago, and the engine's still running in that helicopter. It's just not hovering right now.
That's good. I'm really glad I met you.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm really glad you met me too.
Yeah. And we just vibe really well, like instantly.
No, there was something when I saw you, man. It was like I saw you and I was like, there she is. That's my podcast partner.
It's really funny how the universe just brings people together sometimes, and it's just automatic. I love it.
It was like when you came up to me and said that you wanted to be on my podcast, I was just like, really? Like I didn't even have to come to you. That was like wild.
Yeah. Again, teacher audacity.
Now it's our podcast.
Yes. I'm so excited. And I've had so much fun with you so far. And I really love how we have maybe different perspectives about things sometimes, but I love to find common ground. And I love to hear perspectives that are different from mine and just sort of see where other people are coming from. So even if we aren't always exactly in agreement on stuff.
Well, we won't be.
We won't be, and it's totally normal. Like, I love to see people stay friends and keep getting along even when there might be some difference of opinion.
Because triggered wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
That wasn't, that word wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
That was Roy Rogers' horse's name.
I get that reference. I'm so proud. Yeah, but like talking about trigger warnings, I think that's a good lead in actually, because we might need to put some trigger warnings on our podcast from time to time.
We will.
When we're talking about abuse. But
well, and I think I told you that doing this podcast, trying to start this podcast, I got a little triggered because I was having to bring up memories of her after I had just left her. And even yesterday, I was looking through some old emails to get some reference for stories because they all bleed together in my brain.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'm going to stop this. So I get what triggered means. I got that then.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do think, like, this is how I like to explain it to people that it, isn't making sense for. So, spoilers for the movie John Wick coming up. Keanu Reeves is my hall pass. Do you know what that means?
I do.
Okay. So, of course, I wanted to watch John Wick at one point, and I had never really heard anything about it other than it had Keanu in it, and I was like, sold. That's enough for me.
Okay.
So I started watching it, and I had no idea that we were going to see really intense violence
Violence.
on a
Yep.
puppy. Like, just
Oh,
right
no,
there.
I didn't know that.
Oh God,
A
it's
puppy?
awful. It's a puppy. It's like a puppy. Like, I'm about to cry just thinking about it.
I wonder if I blocked that out because I think I've seen that movie.
It was really, really upsetting. And like, it's necessary to the plot because it's the impetus for his whole thing, right?
And we know it's not real. It's just a movie.
And we know it's not real. It's just a movie. But like, if I had just a little bit of prior notice going in, just to know, like, don't get attached to this dog because something bad is about to happen, I would not have been like crying for 30 minutes. I probably would have been like, okay, I'm prepared, you know? So it's just a little bit of like emotional preparation for stuff like that. And now there's a website called doesthedogdie.com. And you can look up movies and whatever to find out, is this animal, yes, is it going to hurt this animal? Yeah. And I use it because sometimes I just need to know. If I'm watching a horror movie and there's a dog, I need to know if this dog is going to make it.
Yeah, fuck like, those teenagers. You don't care. Just make sure the
teenagers
dog is going to...
Those teenagers are dumb and they deserve what happens to them. No, that's not true. But
right.
I want to know if the dog is going to get hurt. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's to me like what a trigger warning is.
Does it only cover dogs?
I think they have one for... It's a little broader now. It's like all kinds of things.
Yeah, because sometimes horses die and
Right. I can't do it. I can watch any kind of violence with people and I'm like, yeah, it's just a story. And then I can look at that and go, ooh, that's really good makeup. Like, ooh, that artist did a good job with that effect. But if it's an animal getting hurt, I'm crying. Like, I can't watch it. So to me, that's how I think of trigger warnings. All right. Well, that is our podcast for this week. Thank you guys so much for listening. We had so much fun doing this.
So much fun.
We're hoping to be putting out episodes every week to 2 weeks. Still kind of working on a schedule for that because we're brand new to this. But yeah.
And let us know if you want them weekly or bi-weekly. That could work too.
Yeah, definitely. If you are interested in submitting a story for us, you can go to our Facebook page, which is Bad Boss Detox. And there you will find a Google form you can fill out that has all the questions you need. If you want to just send us an email, you can also do that. Our email address is stories@badbossdetox.com. And Instagram. Our Instagram profile is Bad Boss Detox Pod. So follow us on Instagram if you want to. We'll be posting a few things there when we've got them. Well, that's all I got to say.
Me too.
Okay, bye.
Bye.